I'm Erin Lawler-Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted. All right, I am super excited today to have my guest, Jen Denall, is with me today.
Hello.
Jen is a colleague of mine. She's a math teacher here at the high school I work at, as well as running our girls club here, kind of a girl empowerment. So with that, what we're going to be talking about today is just that girl power. And it's a term I think we kind of throw around a lot, but I think in today's day and age, and right now what's going on within our culture and society, it's kind of an ideal time to talk about what is girl power and how do we make it happen. So if I were kind of to throw at you, with from the girls that you work with in your math class, even how long you've been teaching for?
I've been teaching for 19 years.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Lots of kids.
Right.
And with that, you've kind of helped raising lots of young women.
Yes.
And pretty recently, you kind of had this desire to start this club. If you don't mind telling me a little bit about it.
I felt like there was a need for a place that we could talk that wasn't in an academic classroom. I'm a math teacher, so there's really no space to talk about these issues, or if there are, then that means math isn't happening. So we have this great lunch here, and I wanted to use it. I thought it was a great opportunity for girls to get together. We meet once a week, and we talk about whatever. But lately, when you asked me before we started to say, what does girl power mean?
Right.
To me, and I thought, I feel like girl power used to be this like catch-all slogan for, girls can do anything, we can be anything, we can be astronauts and, whatever. But I feel like that is changing. And I feel like what we're trying to talk about is how do you get girls to recognize their power, as opposed to just feeling like, I can do anything. Yeah, great. We all know that we can do anything. We're living in this great 2017 where there are, we can run for president. We can do anything. But owning our power and recognizing what our power is, and then standing up for whatever we think is important, and also standing up for each other is more important than just this idealistic, we can do anything. I think that makes it a little vague.
Right.
So, we try to be a little more specific. What does that actually mean in terms of, these 17 and 16, 18-year-old girls?
And I think when we're vague, things don't happen.
Right.
And so when we make it a little bit more tangible and kind of lay it out for like, what are you capable of? And I think, when it comes to girl power, the term, it holds so much. But when we break it down, like when you talk to parents, whether that's, from the kids you teach to out in the community, everybody wants their young woman to be confident and to have that sense of girl power, but it's how do we make that happen?
Right.
And so I'm going to kind of throw that out because I think, especially with, you look at social media and I think sometimes as parents or just people in our community do not realize the kind of cancer or the negativity that stems from what's in their hand, in their cell phone and Facebook and Instagram, and how kids are just kind of inundated.
Well, I think we start to become like zombies because we stare at our phone, and to think that it's not like a drug is crazy because it's an addiction.
Oh, it's totally.
And we're absolutely addicted to our forms of social media. But I think us as adults understand that and we can put it down. But I think they feel like they can't put it down. So one of the things we talk about is by looking at that social media, you're inherently comparing your life to those of others. Mm-hmm. And you're comparing your life to a idealistic life that you're seeing through social media, and to get a realistic idea of what that actually is. So we talk about comparison being the thief of joy. Mm-hmm. So as you compare yourself, you're always going to come up short. Right. But if you can stop that comparison and back off and say, wait, this is like a magazine I'm looking at. This isn't real life.
It's airbrushed.
Right.
Airbrushed
This
life.
is an airbrushed, magical life. Nothing is really real on social media. Nothing's really real in magazines. It's all been carefully, presented in this certain way. I think half the battle is just being aware of that.
Right.
And then the second half is actually combating it and trying to not put yourself out there as perfect either.
Right.
So we talk a lot about self-compassion instead of what was the word I was looking for? Instead of self-esteem. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we just talked about was with self-esteem, it's like, oh, I'm the best this and I'm the best that and I'm the best this and my self-esteem is so high. But then we started talking about self-compassion that, no, we're not. Maybe I'm the best pencil sharpener, but I'm terrible whatever else. And just recognizing the parts of us that aren't great and being okay with it.
Right.
Because I think that, again, that girl power umbrella makes us sometimes feel less when we don't fit the model that we see on our phones or in the magazine. So
because it'll never fit.
It'll never fit.
It'll never fit. I mean, you don't see anybody taking a picture of them, over the toilet bowl when they have the flu. You know, it's like, hey,
or hey, just woke up. Yeah. I look like I've been beaten in the face.
Yeah, I look super sketchy.
Right.
But that's, I think we're all kind of guilty of that to an extent where it's like you flip through and everything's ideal and everything's super Disney World and it's like, well, that's not real life. But when we can handle that kind of as adults, but for a 13 or 14-year-old girl who's like, well, I'm not that skinny, or I don't not have blemishes on my face, or my family doesn't look like this. I think it beats the living heck out of them. Yep. And I think this is part of the spoke in the wheel of some of our young ladies, like, developing eating disorders.
Absolutely.
Or, or self-harming themselves, or just, I don't want to say just, but struggling with depression or anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so you look at the social media, and one of the things I always tell people is, whether you're 80 or 18, there needs to be limits, like putting the phone down.
Well, so I think about when we were young and we went home. That phone wasn't there. So there was no, that it's a constant presence in their life from the second they're, from the time their head hits the pillow and then again when they head gets off the pillow. It's constant. Mm-hmm. There's never a break. So it is a constant comparison. It's a constant feeling of I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I wasn't invited to that. I'm not skinny enough, whatever. Mm-hmm. And, talking about things that we can do, sometimes I think, it doesn't have to be a parental thing. Maybe we can also decide that for 2 hours every night, I'm turning that thing on Do Not Disturb. I am getting it out of my hands and I'm just living. Mm-hmm. And I'm not worrying about how everyone else is reacting to what I'm doing. Sometimes I think kids, until they've posted it, it hasn't actually happened. Right. But that's not actually the case. It's happened, whether you've posted it or not. Erin's taking a sip of water.
I am. Thank you for narrating that. I'm staying hydrated. One of the most important things.
See? There we go.
People are empowering women by being hydrated.
I also think, a big part of being outside is a big part of my life. And now Erin is coughing.
I am coughing. Calm
and
down.
Again, we show ourselves self-compassion because sometimes we drink or we cough when we're doing a podcast. For me, my happy place or whatever definitely comes from being outside.
Right.
And just smelling the smells, hearing the sounds. My phone is not with me. I don't know that that's the answer for everybody, but I think everyone has
something. But I think
something.
that's something that is severely lacking.
I think so,
because
too.
I look at when it comes to, we'll say, like the whole girl empowerment, the whole, self-care, and I'm trying to think of the word that you use, self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
It's like a bike wheel with, 37 different spokes in it. Well, one of those spokes is nature. And one of the things I'll say to, young people is, how much time do you spend outside? I don't need to be hiking Everest, but how much time? Well, I don't go outside. Our bodies, need sun exposure.
Right.
Our bodies need to have a sense of that serotonin. You don't need to run a 5K, but you need some time outside. You need, whether that's even going to the gym, getting your serotonin levels up. There's so many facets to you don't need to be a super duper athlete, but every single person has been given a body, and as females, your serotonin levels need to be engaged and need to rise, because this is where depression comes in. And it goes hand in hand with your self-esteem. And why do I feel so crappy?
Well, I think we're willing to do so many things to try to make ourselves feel good. Sometimes we're willing to, we don't eat right because it's filling a void, or we don't, we'll take a medication, or maybe we'll use alcohol, or maybe we'll use drugs, all in a way to make ourselves feel better. But yet, if we just did the simplest things, like go outside and get a little exercise in. Like you said, we're not talking about Everest. Go for a walk around the block. Just little things, and do it with purpose. We talk also about like living deliberately. Just try to be deliberate a little bit and say, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to listen to the sounds for 15 minutes, whatever.
Right.
Call it meditation, call it whatever the heck you want to call it. But just go.
Just go and being present.
Be a human.
Being alive.
Right.
And I do it. It kind of all interconnects though, because they're on their cell phones. And it's like, I'm inside. I mean, the other day, I was with a student and we were talking and it's like, okay, so you wake up and it was dark. You come to school.
Right.
You're in this building all day till whatever the heck it is. Then you have practice after school. You're still in the building. You're literally, and I'm not bashing being involved in sports at all, but like there's no outside time.
Right.
And even if you're in the gymnasium, your body needs some fresh air.
Right.
And I do think a lot of young people in general, but focusing here on females, don't have that exposure. And I'd say to parents, they need to be outside. Right. Like, even if it's 10 minutes a day, you need to be outside, put the cell phone down. They're not going to, like, give you a super duper hug to begin with. But eventually, I think they will appreciate that mental clarity. I do, because I think we've lost a little bit of our identity in just being so busy with sometimes just being busy to be busy. Right. And not living in the moment.
Right. Well, I think, the phones were designed to maybe streamline our lives, but yet they just have compounded it, and there's so much to watch, there's so much to digest, but we're not actually digesting anything. We're just kind of flip,
we're just flipping.
And again, like you said, we're talking about girls, but it's just it's a crazy time to be alive, and maybe every time has said that, right, but yet it's still a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
And recognizing that, and also to speak to the idea that we didn't touch on, is just girls supporting other girls, and that's another thing about social media that's a tough thing. It's so easy to not anonymously, but without having to confront someone face to face, to put down a nasty thing on your phone and make a comment that's maybe not great, that you would never say to somebody's face.
Never.
Ever in a million years.
Right.
And yet we're spewing it, or people are spewing it.
Or just more brazen.
And even if you're not spewing it, maybe you're the recipient, or maybe you're just reading what someone else spewed, and it's like, it's just toxic.
It is toxic.
It feels toxic.
And I think one of the things, it's instilling in our young people, like, kind of taking ownership. And I think it's like, where do you even start with all this stuff with the social media thing? But loving yourself, that makes it easier to love other people. And harder to be mean to other people, because I think it's like, I'm going to use the word epidemic with social media, whether it's on Snapchat, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Finstagram, whatever the heck it is, with writing negatives about female to female. Right. With whatever word you want to fill the blank in, but just ripping each other apart. And I'm like, this is totally the antithesis of what we need to be doing. Right. And so it's like,
again, being deliberate.
Being deliberate.
If you can do, I feel like we've said all these like things that are, okay, this is bad, but what can we actually do? Number one, be deliberate. When you post something, be deliberate in what you post. And maybe be cognizant of, I'm at a party, but my best friend wasn't invited. Do I really want to post it? Or whatever, just be aware, be deliberate, and get outside.
And get outside. Well, and being aware of there's more to life than just you. And so it's like, whether that friend who, that wasn't invited to that party, or it's putting a like on something that was just not nice. Someone saying something about someone, and how many
something. It means your actions mean something.
Your actions, or your lack of action.
True. Yep.
And teaching our young ladies that which I think is empowering, to stand up for what is wrong. And how that's a beautiful thing when we kind of come together. And it's a beautiful thing, like girl power, rock on. Females, we could be totally stripped down by other people, by other females, and feel like total crap about ourselves, and be kind of, we'll say, weaker and more vulnerable to things, or we can empower each other. Right. And I think when we turn the tide and kind of, whether that's at the dinner table discussion, or whether that's in a class, or whether that's, after soccer practice. Right. I think these discussions need to happen with our kids, and aren't happening. Right. And it's like, what do we need to instill in our kids? And I think part of that is speaking up.
Absolutely.
speaking up, because I think we have a lot of hurting girls. I think of the hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of girls that we've worked with over the years, and they're fantastic, but it's this vulnerability of like, A, what are other people going to think of me? B, how do I learn how to love myself? And just not feeling empowered. And so, which is the opposite, you know, and it's like, until you learn to love yourself, teaching our kids that it's okay to love yourself. That's not a cheesy thing. I used to be like, that's so weird. Well, it's not. If you don't love yourself, you can't, having a healthy relationship with a friend or a significant other that's healthy is really super hard to do. And that's where we become vulnerable, like, what's wrong with me? How many times I've had this discussion with young girls, like, there's something wrong with me because this boy who likes me asked me to send him send him an inappropriate picture. Right. And when I don't, he says I'm a prude. Or if I won't have sex with this person, they're saying, you know, I'm a whore, or what, things that don't even make sense, but just the jab, and it's not until they love themselves really, and that it takes time, but that it's like, it's what is he asking you to do? That's making, you know, he's getting all the benefits here, and he's making you feel bad. Like, that's not okay. But saying, rock on, I respect myself enough. So, I mean, on that end of things, I think that's a huge issue. That how do we?
Well, I think the road to that empowerment comes through conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think that girls don't want to admit their weakness because we don't want to feel vulnerable, or that we think maybe we're the only person who hates our skin, butt, eyes, ears, whatever. But you know, once we acknowledge that vulnerability and we start talking about it, you realize you're not alone. And
we're all in this together,
right?
And that's, how do you?
We all want to feel heard, loved. So you know, when you feel like you're part of that community, girl power, it's really about girl empowerment, maybe more than girl power. Right. You know, it's
collective.
Right.
And I think it can happen, but I think
the
bottom line is, like, I do believe. And as we know, I'm not the most organized human, but I do believe in kind of having a strategy when it comes to with our kids, and a plan, and not just kind of like, let's rock and roll and figure things out. Because when it comes to their self-image, their self-compassion, their living, us kind of having a strategy, I do think is really important. Where it's like dialoguing.
It's huge. I don't know that many families talk because everyone's on their phones.
Everybody's on their phone.
You know, but you know, just talk about it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go well.
Put the phones down, and things aren't going to always go well.
The conversation might
be awkward.
As a mother or father, you might meet your daughter at a wall. They might have nothing to say. But just keep trying.
But just keep talking.
Because
at some point, it's kind of like, well, your 2 cents, and your 2 cents, you know, can end up being a quarter at some point, and just add up.
And quite frankly, keep listening. You know? Because I think these girls are ready to talk a lot of times, but they don't necessarily feel like someone's going to listen or listen without judgment. Right. So talking about things you can do as a parent, as a teacher, try to listen without judgment, because no one wants to feel judged.
No, I absolutely agree.
Their worst critic is themselves anyway. Yeah. You know?
I would also say, like, having the plan with, like, hey, let's get outside. Whether that's them individually, or you guys, you know, with one parent or the whole family or whatever. You know, I do believe in keeping them busy, getting involved. I mean, like your group. Right. Oh my gosh, I wish I had that when I was in high school. Being able to, like, engage with other females and just, like, find power and empowerment. Right. Collectively. And you know, whether that's a sport or a hobby or an activity, I think when you know, it's not being the jack of all trades, because you can't be, but it's finding something you're passionate about.
And that's the other thing I was thinking about. Find your purpose, whatever that is. Yeah. And your purpose may change a million times as you age, but find something that gives you purpose, not just posting on your social media and living your life. But
it's
what
empty.
is
That's empty.
What is your purpose? Do you have a passion for academics, or riding horses, or petting puppies, like whatever it is? Find what you love and do it.
And do it.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a severe lacking with that. I'll say, yo, what's your natural high? What is something that drives you, that you don't have to do every day, but that just you get that rush? And there's so many people that don't have anything. I don't know. What do you do? I go
binge
home
watching whatever
Xbox for 7 hours. That does not drive your serotonin levels up. Okay, dude. To, you know, like, I go home and I sit in my room. Well, at some point you get bored of sitting in your room, and you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. That
Right.
is not good decision making. So what's your stoked? And whether that's petting puppies,
Right.
you know, whether that's baking cupcakes, whether that's running a 5K,
Right.
hiking, surfing, you know, something, playing chess or being in theater.
Crocheting. Like, I mean, there's a million.
There's a gazillion things. And
Right.
it's like, what do you dig? And if it's like, well, I don't like to crochet because I've tried it 72 times. Well, try something else. That's what
Right.
life's about.
Right.
And life is a journey. And I think when our girls, like, I love when I see, you know, a female who just gets their stoke on and it's like rock on.
Right.
And you see their self-esteem and their self-image
Yeah.
all goes up. And that's kind of what this is all about, like the dialogue, the natural high, the living, and it's intentional living.
Yep.
And I think, you know, and some people might be like, yo, my kid's in college, this is too late. I don't think as long as you're breathing, it's
Oh my
super
gosh.
never, but that's what people think. Wow, oh my gosh, I'm like, dude, my grandma's 97.
Yeah.
And she's still working on herself.
I try to
man.
make myself better every day.
Every single day.
Sometimes I suck at it.
And you're
sometimes
gonna. Sometimes
I'm
it's like
good.
static.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like walking on sunshine. Every day is different.
Right.
And I do think relaying that to our kids, like there's days that are kind of crap fest.
Right.
And other days.
Well, that's the self-compassion. It's okay. You're going to fail and it's okay.
You're going to cry.
Right.
And you're going to be happy and you're going to be sad. And I'm thinking this too, but if you're in a funkadelic place, there's nothing wrong with you seeking out, going to talk to somebody.
Yep.
And that's where like counseling comes in and self-care and mental health and all these, you know, spokes 17 of the wheel, that when we really like advocate for ourselves, or young ladies, and we are consistent and focused, it's kind of really cool what happens.
Right.
You know, I kind of throw that challenges out to kids, whether they're a freshman or a junior, and I'll say, like, if you just stick with this till senior year and just consistency, and work on you,
Right.
the amazing journey that you'll, and by the end June of senior year, what a beautiful thing that can be.
Why do we all believe that if you want to get better at basketball, you shoot a lot of hoops? But we don't think if you want to be a better you, you have to work at you.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's the same premise.
Super same
but
premise.
we just don't usually put it into action.
We very rarely do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think we focus on everything but what's going on internally. And I'm like, well, you have you for as long as you're alive.
Right.
So you can either dig it or dread it. And your consistency in making yourself a priority. We'll say specifically as a female plays a bearing in it.
And isn't everything a choice?
Everything's a choice.
You know, how we spend our time, what we watch, everything's a choice. And being deliberate, being purposeful, it's important.
And it's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Rock star of America.
Yes, let's do this every day.
Staying hydrated, coughing.
I'm going to go outside right now.
And you better go outside and
Vitamin
frolic
D.
with the universe. Yes, even though it's a little cloudy, but it's not snowing and there's no avalanches, so it's all about positive thinking. But
good.
thanks for joining me, Jen Den Knoll, rock star of New Jersey, of Girl Power.
Wow, I did not know that was my title.
That's a big title. But I appreciate you guys. That should be bedazzled part of your coat. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us, and empower, and live intentionally. Peace, love, and present. If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.